With that, I will introduce tonight's speakers. We have with us Peter Grimm, AIA in CARB, principal with Scott Edwards Architecture. He has been an architect for 26 years in the architectural profession, 23 of those years with Scott Edwards Architecture, with 9 years as the principal. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in architecture from the University of Oregon. His experience includes ground-up expansion and remodel projects for a wide range of clients, including office, retail, industrial, community, education, housing, child development, and hospitality. In recent years, Peter has focused on urban infill, redevelopment, and adaptive reuse for housing, creative office, and retail projects in the Portland metro area and beyond. He has also provided highest and best use analysis, zoning assistance, and consulting services to several clients who are in earliest stages of either purchasing or redeveloping properties. Peter excels in providing superior design, client engagement, and project team coordination and integration. Peter emphasizes the importance of maintaining an active presence during construction to ensure the design intent is preserved through project completion. We also have with us for presentation Eric Wenzel, architect and associate at Scott Edwards. Eric has worked on several diverse projects during his time at Scott Edwards Architecture, focusing specifically on commercial tenant improvements. Eric's project experience with community-based commercial and hospitality projects has provided him a well-rounded framework. His attention to detail and schedule makes him an asset when coordinating with clients and consultants. He is technology savvy and possesses an increased level of curiosity and innovation that lends itself well to his work. His skills and experience make him a valuable part of the design team through all phases of the project. As associate, Eric has taken the lead on coordinating many volunteering efforts at Scott Edwards Architecture. This includes his shelter-focused work with the Kenton Women's Village, St. John's Village, and Arbor Lodge Safe Rest Village. Thank you and welcome, and I will turn it over to both of you for tonight's presentation. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Heather. That was a fantastic introduction. I don't think we've ever sounded better, and we have to live up to all that. Thank you all for making time tonight to join us. So this, for Eric and I, this is our first foray into offering a 4-credit presentation for AIA. So we're really honored to have that opportunity. Thank you, folks at AIA. And so it's going to be, it's a little bit part memoir and part technical abstract, sort of hopefully woven together into really a story of our experiment in designing our own space. So with that said, let's go ahead and get rolling here. Yeah, so as Heather mentioned, we're going to cover four modules, if you will. The first one, we're going to talk a little bit about how did we end up deciding to renovate our existing building, and basically how did we end up on the path that led us to our current space and the process we went through. And so a little bit of the backstory on that, and sort of some of the technical and just sort of luck that led to that. The second one, we want to talk about our sustainability strategies that we employed into the building, and also a little bit of some unexpected lessons that we learned in the process of doing so, and kind of in a really neat way. And then we also have kind of an intriguing case study to share on a code appeal, and we'll go into that here in a minute. And then lastly, we kind of want to talk about more broadly, the lessons learned. What were some of our central design goals? What were some of the unexpected lessons we learned, and how would we kind of rate ourselves in terms of how successful were some of these experiments in creating a compelling workspace. So that's kind of an overview of our presentation. So I think with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the first one. So yeah, how did we end up where we are today? So this was our building in 2006. Prior to that, we started in 1998 as a 2-person shop over in the Pearl District. Our founding partners, Sid Scott and Kelly Edwards. I joined them about a year and a half later, and we had about 5 folks over in a small startup in the Pearl, which we quickly outgrew, and then we moved to the West End, basically downtown next to what's now Providence Park. Go Timbers and Thorns. And we were there until about 2004, at which time we embarked on finding a new home and found this building in 2006, moved over. And at that time, I think we had about 17 folks on staff. And the building had been built in the 40s originally. Beautiful bowstring trusses on the interior. And I think in the mid 90s, there was a storefront project done on the exterior that kind of gave it its character that you see in that last slide. But really just a kind of a cool semi-industrial vibe, which was kind of part of our ethos from day one. Very comfortable, great light, really great neighborhood. So I can't stress that enough. We're on 26th and East Burnside, kind of just below Laurelhurst, the Laurelhurst neighborhood. It's just a wonderful community of truly mixed use, right? You've got restaurants on 28th, and you've got housing, you got single family, multifamily, office space. It's just an integrated neighborhood, and we really love that about it. And so, over the years, we grew. We had, I think, as an industry, we had a bit of a tailwind from post 2008 debacle. End of days, up through the mid 20 teens or late 20 teens, or maybe even up to COVID. And so we grew and we grew, and by about 2016 we realized we're going to need a larger home. We're going to need a bigger shell, and we struggled with how to achieve that on our existing site because it was an existing 1-story building, not a large site. And we really didn't want to demolish this beautiful old, industrial shell. And so we embarked on a search, at that point, citywide. And we looked at probably at least 30 properties, maybe as many as 50 on paper, but I think we visited easily 30. And this roughly corresponds to many of those locations, more like illustrative than exact. So if you see a building on there and you're like, hey, that's my building, this is more for demonstration. So we really looked all over town, northeast, south, west, northwest, southeast, etc. And all of those locations had pros and cons, and that in and of itself was a really interesting process. And at that time, we had a really healthy office market, you may recall, and throughout Portland Metro. It was a different time. It was like a different era, really. And so we had all kinds of, when you go knocking on the door as a going concern, as a viable business looking to, buy and or do a joint venture, you get lots of suitors. So we had many options on the table at that time, which was really kind of cool. Ultimately, we narrowed that down to about 3 properties, 2 in Northeast and 1 over in Industrial Northwest. And we were literally, I would say, weeks away from committing to a joint venture deal with a local developer on a much larger project as a minority stakeholder in that project. And we were happy to do so, to kind of just be part of something interesting and have a hand in design and so forth. And literally, like the 11th hour, the building owner next door to us called and said, because I had helped him with some some highest and best use a few years earlier. So he called me. He's like, hey, I'm ready to sell. Any chance you guys want to buy my lot? And I was yeah, probably. So that was like a Friday, and talked to my partners over the weekend. And by Monday, we were in negotiations, and I think it wasn't another week and a half before we had settled on terms on that lot. So that led us to purchasing a very small but large enough property. It was a 50 by 100, like a residential lot. Basically, there was an old vet clinic on there, and they were getting a new home, a much better home. It's kind of an old building, pretty tired to tear down. And we immediately set to work. We just intuitively said we can figure this out. Let's do it. And we kind of inked the deal and we went forward. And so that then led into our design process, which Eric's going to talk about here. I guess I should mention before we talk about the charette. So we so we were fortunate enough to also have some space a block away to lease ultimately during construction. So this is just a shot of that space. So we ultimately were able to, this is where we all lived during construction. That maybe if we go back here to talk a little bit about our process, our kind of our design charette process, that would be helpful.
Sure. So one of our first steps in the design process is to hold a company-wide charette. And we had just a really great turnout and just a lot of really good ideas as part of it. And it was everything between, programming diagrams, floor plans that showed desk layouts, flow, ideas on how we operate, how we use our technology, and all the way up to full-on rendered concepts. So it was really valuable for us because it brought in a lot of ideas that became the basis of design going forward. And it really was the root of a lot of the goals that we were going to achieve with this project. And the main one being interconnectivity. As Peter mentioned, in the past, we were always on a single level, and connectivity between studios was always pretty fluid. And then we started to branch out to like Ankeny and other remote locations, small remote locations. And we just felt that need for connectivity even more and more as we kind of branched out, and we really want to be interconnected again. So with the opportunity to buy in the building right next to us and being able to build a 3-story addition, we felt that getting everybody under one roof again was going to really help solve that interconnectivity. That said, there was a lot of work to do, and some of the other main goals that we had were, creating breakout space for collaboration, creating a central stair that would connect all the floors, because we knew we were going to go multiple stories. And one of the challenges of going multiple stories is losing that connectivity. So we really wanted to focus on something that's really open and airy, and that we can really almost see, talk to each other, and hear what's going on throughout the building and not be cut off. Some other things were a central all-staff area where we do our weekly all-staff meetings, and then fun communal spaces like a roof deck. So here's a quick section of our existing building here, and as Peter mentioned, it was built in 1946 as a post office, and through time it changed hands a couple times and was usually a warehouse use. But they had these clear span bowstring trusses, hem-fir decking. I mean, it's always been really amazing. So we were happy that we could keep this space, and then the opportunity to go through the wall here and interconnect into our addition. We were really excited about doing that, and the design process really entailed going back to those goals and incorporating all the feedback on how these two buildings could interact with each other. And again, it's like we have the old on one side and the new. And as part of the charette, we talked about mass timber this, and we really wanted to use mass timber as part of this. And we didn't know what kind of mass timber, but we know we wanted to use mass timber and really to help tell a story between the old and the new, because in the 40s, bowstring trusses were really popular, being built all around town, and highlighting this kind of as an advancement of wood technology between the two. We thought that was like a really cool opportunity to do something like that.
And at that, just sorry, Eric, just real quick. At that point in 2018, we hadn't done any CLT projects. We were kind of behind the curve already, and so we thought, okay, what a great way to experiment with that material. So
yeah, so we looked at 3 different types of mass timber. We looked at CLT, DLT, which is dowel laminated timber, and mass plywood, and we kind of went back and forth on them and looked at all the benefits of each one. And we ultimately landed on CLT, cross-laminated timber. Due to its aesthetic, we were able to source it regionally, so really close by, only 4 hours south of us. And we really like the embodied carbon aspect from a sustainability standpoint. So we chose CLT going forward, and again, just got really excited, especially in the planning process. It's really unique with it's pre-manufactured. There's a lot of planning and precision that needs to happen beforehand. So I will switch over to construction. Through that planning, a lot of the stuff really paid off, and one was timing. So CLT is really sold as like really speeding up the construction process, and we did really see that as part of this. They were setting glue lambs in one day, CLT the next, and then the next floor would start going up the next day.
And to be clear, guys, we employed a hybrid system. I think Eric mentioned that, but post and beam, conventional post and beam, steel column, glue lamb, and then CLT floor slabs. So just wanted to mention that. Yeah.
So and that was part of the aesthetic, and also we had the flexibility of being a Type 5B building, that we could leave essentially everything exposed, both the CLT and steel. So it was nice to have that flexibility within this footprint that we were building in. Challenge there, though, is that so if you have 2 different subs coordinating stuff like what you're seeing right here, you can see how that could be a challenge between the steel sub and the wood manufacturer. So they really had to work hand in hand throughout the process, and all the details had to be really dialed in. What you're seeing here is, in order to speed up the process a little bit more and to achieve a higher level of architectural detailing, we ended up deciding to run the columns full height. And the only columns that had to go over, or the only panels that had to go over these columns, were the second floor, and that was to achieve some cantilevers that we wanted. But again, it goes back to really planning and precision with CLT. I mean, you're being aided by a CNC machine. So, I mean, again, it's just like, it has to go hand in hand. And it really did that day. And it was fun to kind of see everything just snap together like it was planned. And we also want to look beyond just using the CLT as a floor and roof plate. So being a laboratory for design, we also want to look at where else could we use this? I mean, there's all of these opportunities that we have. So to the left here, we used a 40-foot CLT panel as our guardrail on one side of the stair. And then on the bottom right here, we also used CLT as a freestanding structure that we called the spine, and it's located in the center of our existing building. And what it does is it breaks up the workstations on either side. It also creates 2 breakout spaces and a reception area. And it's all made out of 3-ply CLT. And actually the whole building is made out of 3-ply. There was one area, this one's kind of a little bit of an interesting story, but there was a small area that required a fire rating. That was the top of the elevator. And as means of getting that rating, we wanted to make that profile as slim as possible And I spoke with the wood manufacturer, and they were able to produce data and documentation that proved that it was a two-hour assembly, being 5-ply, and we were able to use it in that fire rated situation. So that was kind of cool. So it was like everything showed up 3-ply, and then we had one little 5-ply piece.
So Eric, before you move on, just realized kind of a cool little nugget. If you notice, and where Eric's sitting behind him, that wall is the original one of the original walls from the 1940s building, and it had this really cool board form concrete. And so we wanted to kind of pull that texture through to the new building too. So the 2-story sheer wall that you see in the lower photo was new, but we pulled that same construction type forward and did that board form all around, which really gave just a fantastic texture. Something that we wouldn't normally do, but just kind of a fun little move.
And then here's a image looking at both the old existing structure to your right, the 1940s bowstring truss building, and then to the left, a brand new CLT building. And we did a 40-foot opening between them and saw cut a big, as Peter was saying, just a huge board form wall out just to make that connection between the two. Supported with steel on that side, and then a big 3-foot deep glue lam on this side. So it's a great juxtaposition between the two buildings. And again, it just goes back to kind of speaking between old and new and telling that story, because we have a lot of history in this building to your right. So it's really great to kind of push that history and future into the new building.
So if there's maybe one takeaway from that whole process, I would say, if you have the opportunity to do something like this for your own workspace, or really for one of your clients, nobody knows your business better than you, right? You've got all the knowledge within your company or within your client's company to put whatever your design brief, whatever's top of mind and most important for you guys, to put that central to your design concept. So, don't forget to tap that deep knowledge and maybe be willing to experiment. So those were fun lessons and takeaways for us.
So on to our second module, how sustainability strategies like locally sourced materials, energy and daylight modeling, and a green roof were used in the renovation in addition to promote environmental stewardship. So similar to our design charette that we held right at the beginning, we did a sustainability charette basically in tandem. And same format, and again, a really good turnout of people bringing just like really good ideas to the table on how this building could function from a sustainability standpoint, both from a building science all the way to operations. So it's just, again, it's very holistic in a sense that it's just great to get that feedback and see what people really want. One of the number one requests were operable windows. Actually, in our old bowstring truss building, we had everything was fixed. So we were just clamoring to get some windows that opened and some flexibility. So we ended up actually replacing the entire window package throughout the entire building and put operable windows pretty much almost everywhere, just for that flexibility for people working during the nicer months. Some other requests that came out of that were like daylighting strategies, green roof, then the CLT, and we had a bunch of other small things. But again, we looked at this building holistically and tried to implement sustainability strategies throughout the entire building, including the existing part, which is really one of the biggest sustainable characteristics is the adaptive reuse. We seismically upgraded it. We bead blasted the bowstring trusses to really bring it to life again, and just it really looked new at by the time we finished the addition. So that was really great. And then looking at native landscaping, solar shading, we have that really cool wood screen on the front that provides really good solar shading. It's on the south side. And then on the west side, we have some solar shades that block the light later in the day when you have a lot of glare. One other thing I just want to mention about our sustainability effort was, as part of this, another great thing that came out of the charette was we created a checklist as part of this. And we ended up actually carrying that checklist, kind of a form checklist, going forward to projects, and really implemented those early on in the process to make sure we were implementing sustainability aspects into every project going forward. So that was a real value out of this charette too, is that we have a document that kind of instills what we did and actually carried it on to other projects on how can we implement sustainability from both small aspects to large aspects on all our projects. Although we did not pursue certification on this project specifically, we did implement a number of sustainable strategies throughout, as I was mentioning, as many as we could. Peter, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. So, when we designed this 5 years ago, this was pretty much state of the art for our level of development in sustainable design. Super proud of it. It's been a wonderful space. It's a very comfortable, we've got high efficiency VRF systems. We've got thermal mass. We've got, the fact that we're doing an adaptive reuse project in the city is a big, reduction in impact, and, really proud of all those things. Subsequent to our design process, we had a bit of serendipity. Actually took one of the AIA's 10-part series through the AIAU on embodied carbon, and had a bit of an epiphany and realized, we've been involved with LEED since the early 2000s. We've done everything we can to integrate this into some of our work, typically our public work where it's mandated or part of the funding requires LEED certification, or Earth Advantage for our multifamily projects. But there was no holistic approach for all of our work. And following on that seminar series, we realized we really need to commit to the AIA 2030 challenge to give us a framework to really amp up and be consistent with all of our work. So looking for opportunities to reduce the impact more holistically across our whole company. So that felt like, again, that was serendipity. Going through the process on our own building, I think, raised our awareness to a really high level, which then enabled us to be open to those new ideas as they came basically passed in front of us. And so following on that, we realized, gosh, we're going to need someone to manage this. We're committed. We're on board. We're a little late, but we're in the race, and we're really proud to be part of that effort. So we hired a full-time sustainability director who came on board within the last year. So it's pretty recent for us. I mean, mea culpa, but we're, again, really excited to, she is setting a great tempo for us to evaluate not only the work we've done already, and in fact, we're doing a life cycle analysis on this project to compare that to a ground up, which I think will be really fascinating, and can't wait to see the results of that in terms of both the embodied carbon and the operational carbon. And we're exploring some other, on-site PV generation, some other strategies as well. So again, what's the takeaway here? I mean, going through this process for ourselves, I think, laid the groundwork for us to really be ready to finally commit to a much more holistic framework. So maybe the takeaway is it's never too late to recommit to reducing the impact of your work. So. Okay, so our third module, let's see, how are we doing on time? I think we're doing good. This was a kind of an interesting case study that that we thought we would share with you guys, just kind of unique to this project in our experience. So we've done many office design projects over the years, and typically 3-story office, you can interconnect any 2 floors with a nice feature stair, no problem, no muss, no fuss. And in fact, if you had a larger footprint, if you could get 2 stair enclosures on there, that 3rd stair is really just ornamental, right? So in this case, our footprint, as we mentioned, was really 50 by 100, and we needed a 10-foot setback on both the side and the rear. So really, it's a 40 by 90 building footprint. And you can imagine there's not a lot of room left for program once we have that. If we had to put 2 enclosed stair cores all the way up, it just doesn't work on a site that small. And as we mentioned early on, our central design brief to ourselves was maintain connectivity, maintain the connections, and restore and improve the connection between groups, between studios. And so we really, really felt strongly that the central feature, this vertical element, this atrium space, was really pivotal. And so we thought, well, let's see, is there any path to get this to demonstrate that we could have 1 enclosed stair and 1 open stair going 3 stories? We didn't have a lot of precedent in the city of Portland. I don't think we could find any at the time. And so, but we felt intuitively, it felt inherently safe because it wasn't an inordinate travel distance. And our exits are separated. We have the second exit that exits around an exit court around the back. And so it just felt inherently safe. But on paper, we knew we were going to have to appeal this. So we embarked on a process, hired a code consultant, and embarked on that process to kind of demonstrate to the building officials that, in fact, we could do a 3-story open stair as our second means of egress. So I think Eric's got some additional details to share, and then we have a kind of fun little video snippet to share as part of our submittal to the Building Code Board of Appeals.
So as Peter mentioned, it was unprecedented at the time, and we really couldn't find any appeals that matched this specific situation, nor could our code consultant at the time. So we went through a number of exercises with them, and we figured out a couple different ways that we could provide the equivalent life safety by removing this enclosed stair. And by doing that, we had to add draft curtains, smoke alarm protection. We had to do closely spaced sprinklers at the openings. And we had to actually widen the stair, the main central stair. And then those were all, between that and what the code consultant produced, this really helped build our case in terms of providing the equivalent life safety. So I'll show you a video here. And what they did is they produced 2 videos. One was prescriptive design that showed the 2 enclosed egress doors, and then one video was a proposed design which shows this design. And
before you roll that, I guess you're rolling.
No, go ahead.
So all of the elements we described before, the draft curtain, the sprinklers, and so on, pretty conventional for an atrium design. What we had to demonstrate was that you could egress in an equivalent amount of time. Okay, so it was more of a time-based analysis than a smoke and fire propagation analysis. That was managed architecturally. So that was the central nugget that we had to make the case for that. And so this video was the result of them dropping in the occupant data and our floor plans into their software, and so what we're going to show you is that analysis. It's kind of like a Keystone Cops with these little sims, and it's a little herky jerky here, but you can see they're kind of generally exiting. There's some on the roof deck. They're going down the stairs. Some people are having a hard time getting out of the conference room. They're just running into each other, or they're walking in circles. So I don't know if it's a perfect science, but I think generally, also they're remarkably calm in an emergency, which is nice.
And what you're seeing on the top right is how many people are exiting within the time frame, and you'll see the time frame at the lower right. And what they did was they compared the videos real time, side by side, with the Board of Appeals. So in order to get there, we had to go through an appeal process 3 times, and after the 3rd time, they recommended to the highest Board of Appeals, which is called the Big Board. And the Big Board consists of 3 members who are used at the time. It was an architect, a contractor, and a representative from the city. And what they do is they hear your case, and at the end they do a vote. And in our case, we won the appeal on a 2-3 vote.
2-1.
Sorry, 2-1.
Yeah, it's a slim margin. But anyway, we just thought that was kind of fun. We had never gone through that kind of empirical analysis before, but they were able to demonstrate that, in fact, you could egress within the same amount of time that it would take you to egress an equivalent enclosed stair. So kind of cool. Just thought it'd be fun to share. So what's the takeaway there? Well, maybe, if you feel like you have a situation where, I know most of us on the call have done probably umpteen code appeals for our clients. A lot of times they're fairly routine. This one was kind of a rare bird. And so, but again, we felt that it was inherently safe. And I think maybe the takeaway is, if you feel like you have a situation where in your gut as an architect, is it, knowing what we know about what's essential to life safety, if it feels inherently safe and you can demonstrate empirically that it is, maybe consider going that route, because, in this case, we were successful, and I think we got a really wonderful spatial element out of it and still maintained a safe building. So that was a really good experience for us. Okay, so we're down to our final module, lessons learned. So so hopefully this has been kind of interesting for you guys. So what I want to kind of go sort of pan out a little bit and say, what were the broader lessons here that would be useful for you guys in terms of our overall experience. And I'd say number one, the first, recapping a little bit of our process, listen to yourselves. Tap that deep knowledge within your company, or if you're working on behalf of your client, find out what is, you've got, like we said, nobody knows more about your business than you. And this is the opportunity to put that to use. And if you're willing to experiment, you can come up with some really neat solutions. I think, workplace design will probably continually evolve. And so using the office as a kind of a laboratory is been a really wonderful experience. So that's number one. Maybe number two, opportunities are all around us, right? So for example, if you've got, in our case, this was an adaptive reuse project. If for a project like that, is there a way to rethink how your space is organized to better serve whatever it is your central design goals are? Prior to this, we really didn't have a big central town hall meeting space. And so we really, really wanted to put that front and center. And so designing for connectivity and warmth, and ultimately trying to create a comfortable, compelling place to come to work, was really a fantastic process for us. So, looking for those opportunities. They might be right in front of you. Details matter. So typically when we work for clients, we're under the gun, time pressure, we never quite have enough fee. It's just more like time runs out, we pencils down, and time to move on. This was maybe probably a once in a career opportunity, if you to design our own space to this level. If you ever get that opportunity, take the time to investigate solutions to the little things that don't work as well as they could, and take that time, because it's a bit of a luxury. But again, we wanted to explore that. Everything from workstation design, desk heights, spacing, monitor, the tech, the hardware, access to common resources, and proximity to, easy proximity to those informal collaboration spaces, those soft seating groups, those small breakout spaces, those Zoom rooms, and making that easy and accessible, is really resulted in a very functional workplace for us. So, don't forget about those. And I think finally, be flexible. Life is unpredictable. When we started this, who could have predicted you would have a global pandemic, and that the entire nature of the office workplace would reinvent itself basically overnight. Your designs likely will need to continuously adapt to changing workflow patterns going into the future. So maybe designing in some flexibility and adaptability to accommodate different modes. That's probably going to be a theme in workplace design for the foreseeable future, but that feels like opportunity for us as architects, right? So, maybe just recognize that and treat it as an opportunity. I think if we're willing to put ourselves in the context of office design or workplace design, if you're willing to put our own workflow a bit under the microscope, we're really well positioned to learn from that and apply that to the next project. So I think that's our presentation, guys. So again, thank you very much for your time and attention. We hope that was somewhat interesting and informative. And I think we have a little bit of time for if anybody has any questions or follow-up. I guess I would turn that back over to you, Heather, you and Kathy, and let us know how that's going to work. Or I'm not sure if we have any, but thank you.
Well, that was well timed. Good job. If anybody has any questions, feel free to speak up or put it in the chat.
You can also take yourself off mute and ask your question, or of course, turn on your video if you want to ask your question personally.
I saw a hand. I don't know if that was.
Yeah, that was me. Sorry. Hey, Peter, Eric, good presentation. That was a lot of fun. Thank you. I have a question that goes back to the very beginning when you talked about connecting these two buildings. You purchased the building next door. What was the process, or what did you have to do to be able to connect those two without having a fire separation between these two lots? Did you end up combining the lots together? Did you have to go through that land use process, I guess?
Yeah, Eric, you want to field that one?
Yeah, so we ended up just consolidating the two lots and removing the lot line in between. And that was actually a really simple process through the city of Portland. Instead of like dividing the lots, which usually takes a lot of time, consolidating was really, really easy. And then we were able to meet the allowable areas for both buildings. So therefore, we were type 5B, and we're able to open up between the buildings.
Yeah, we were fortunate in that we did not. So prior to, I think it was around 2015, the lot next to us had a different zoning. It was an RH. It was like at the time, medium density residential, but the city had upzoned it in the interim. So it was to a CM zoning, which is what we had in our lot. So it was kind of a no-brainer. We didn't have a split zone anymore, and we had the ability to, from a land use perspective, it wasn't allowed. It was the use was allowed outright too. So that was fortunate. We have worked on projects for clients where we had a split zone, and they kind of wanted to do the same thing and much more complicated. So this one kind of fell in our lap. It was not overly complex in this case. But yeah, thank you for the question. And it was just I gotta say, it's just a lot of fun to cut a giant hole in the building.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
we've done a bunch over the years, but it's always fun when that big chunk of concrete goes. And so, okay, this is why we got into this.
Hi, Stephanie Herring here. You had mentioned that at the time that this was, I guess, constructed, that it was at like the forefront of, I guess, technology and sustainability. What features or differences, I guess, would you do if you were to kind of look at it with a fresh lens and start it, say, tomorrow? Is there anything that you've done for clients that you kind of wish you had been able to take a part of back when you were planning this out?
So, I mean, Eric, do you want to go first on that? I have some thoughts.
You can take this one.
Okay. Well, I love your question. Eric and I talked about this a lot in the context of, this presentation. I'm not sure we know what we don't know yet, because we're getting ready to embark on that life cycle assessment and see where we could have done even better. We did pretty darn good. I'm just being honest. Wasn't off the chart the most sustainable, lowest impact building on the planet, but it was pretty darn good and it was achievable. So we're really proud of that. What would we do differently? Probably over insulate a bit more, maybe a little bit more preparation for PV. That's a no-brainer, and we're ultimately going to go there, but now we have to retrofit. We just decided we couldn't spend the money at the time. It would have been a little bit better to do so at the time, but so it's going to cost us a little bit more later. Our MEP systems our mechanical systems are very efficient. So if we treat the building as an appliance, it's pretty darn good. It would score pretty well, I think. We won't know until we get that analysis done, but I think the analysis itself is going to be a real learning tool for us to better answer that question.
Are you willing to share it when it comes out?
Sure. Yeah, you
That'd
bet.
be great. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you bet. 100%.
Thank you both, by the way.
Yeah, I think we all benefit, right, from each other's work. You bet. Probably be like early 24. I think something like that. So pretty quick.
There was a related question. Sorry, Heather. I was just gonna say there was a related question that I think they thought was probably already answered, but I'm kind of curious. Is there anything after it be just being in the space, living in it, working in it, that you would change?
I mean, Eric, I'll go last.
I think the cool thing about this process is that after you build it, you get to live in it. So you get to, feel like you get to really see all the quirks and like the things that you could improve over time. I mean, really, honestly, we're really, really happy with it. And we think it's a great experience, and we think, staff really love it. Especially with these amenity spaces that are great. I think as architects, we love to do a bunch of really like natural materials, and we had a really great interiors team, analyze it from an acoustic standpoint, but we're like continually learning like, oh, maybe we should, focus on some more acoustics in this area to solve it, since it's an open office and everybody's taking Zoom calls nowadays. So things have kind of changed a little bit. So it's also kind of like that culture to the Zoom culture. We're kind of learning, like we've built in some Zoom rooms, post occupancy. It's that kind of stuff that we're kind of learning with this new way that we're working.
Yeah, we have a nifty tool for signing up for flex desks, which is it's a software called Robin. Super easy to manage, and that was a learning. We learned that post occupancy. We're going to learn more about our energy use post doc. So again, more learning that in TBD, in progress. I'm kind of with Eric. My answer is kind of a Pollyanna. It's pretty dang nice all the way around. I don't have any.
It sure looks nifty.
It's just comfortable. It feels like home. Yeah. I mean, it just feels like it's a comfortable place to come to work. I think for most people, most people would agree. It's just really quite nice. So, which is maybe that's something that everybody can take away, like we would hope so. If we've got that many folks who can put their minds to it to design our own space, yeah, that we ought to get it pretty good. So yeah.
Was there anything else anyone wanted to ask? No, I mean, we're coming up on time, so thank you so much, you guys. This was a great presentation.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for attending.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for presenting, and thanks AIAO for putting this together for us. Thanks.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.